All right, welcome to the first lab of AI-900. And in this lab, the title is Explore Azure AI Services, but in reality, we're just exploring Content Safety Studio here. The UI is a bit cluttered nowadays because we have AI Studio here as an option. But well, this will be okay for our purposes. Note that I'm already signed in using my lab credentials over here. And then also, this is part of the Azure AI UI. Again, this is going to change fairly quickly, but at least currently we still have these different studios available here on the left-hand side. And I do believe all of that will be later on under Azure AI Studio. But don't take my word for it. Keep your eyes glued on the UI changes. Now, if we would try to do something here, we would fairly quickly figure out that, hey, we don't have anything, right? There's like, we need to have a resource. So let's start with that. One way to create a resource is using these links. Around here, go to select and so on. Maybe a nicer way is to use this cogwheel icon here, so the settings. And then we can see that we don't currently have any resources in Azure that we could use, nor do we have any permissions for any of that. Right, so we can click here to create a new resource. And if you take a look at the tooltip, or kind of the hint down at the bottom of the screen, you can see that this is just a static link. So this looks like being a part of the UI, but in reality, it is this aka.ms link. And as you can probably guess, that will actually lead us to the Azure portal, right? So a little bit confusing, as there are many user interfaces to more or less the same underlying infrastructure. But now we're getting transported over to the Azure portal. And then we use that to actually create this content safety resource. Okay, we put it in a resource group. For lab purposes, I'm going to put it into East US 2, as it tends to have a little bit more capacity. Our name needs to be unique, so let's say deepdives-eu content safety, and then we're just going to use the free pricing tier for now. As with many services in Azure, we're just creating this kind of container that has the metadata, so like the building data and the location in it. And because this is just metadata, it doesn't take very long to get created at all. All right, so now we got it. Now we need to go back to the UI, right? So let's see if I can. Yeah, Content Safety Studio was the place where we want it to be. All right, and if we go back to the settings, we can see that we now have a resource here. And now if we select that resource to be used, and then go back to the view, you can see that we now have everything filled out up here. We have a subscription, we have a role assignment, and so on. If you're doing this in a non-lab environment, you have to go back to the resource that you created and then give your user the cognitive services user role, right? This one, for that particular resource. All right, so now everything seems to be okay. So now we can start to try stuff out. Going back to the main page. We're just going to try out the basic use case here. Moderating text content. And there's a simple sample here with regards to safe content. We can see down here, this is a part of a recipe clearly, even though it is talking about knives and cutting and stuff like that. This does not have any, violence or self-harm references in it. So we can run this test. And the first time always takes a little bit. And then you can see that the test has not really given us any alerts. Severity level is safe on all of the categories that are involved. And then that means, of course, that we will allow it. Now there's a secondary test here regarding violent content. So there is violent content in here. However, it is misspelled, right? So kind of a traditional keyword-based filter might fail here because of the misspellings. If we run this test, then we can see that this is actually blocked. And the reason was violence, and it says that it's medium level violence, which is actually our threshold. So that's what we want to block. Now, in reality, of course, we don't use this kind of user interface to test for content safety of text. Rather, we use code. And then that means that we need to authenticate against this endpoint. So back here in the settings, first of all, you can see the endpoint URL over here. That's what you need to connect to. And then the secondary thing here that is available is the key that you use for authentication, so the API key. There's only one here. As you might know, traditionally in Azure, we have two keys to be able to authenticate. That allows us to do a kind of a nicer key changes. So if you want to invalidate the key and roll over to a new one, we can still keep the old one working. And as it is, if you go back to Azure to take a look at these this resource, then you will actually see that there are in reality two keys available. It's just the other UI is only showing us one. I'm going to show that to you quickly. Right here you can see the two keys and the endpoint URL. And key number one here is actually the key that's shown on the other user interface. And then if you need to give permissions to yourself, then you do that from here. Right, so IAM for this particular resource. And then you would add the cognitive user role. But yeah, that's it for this lab. Very short one. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Till then.